Ooh, welcome to the first victory edition of the Gangs All Here podcast, our Jets podcast from the New York Post. Those highlights you just heard, courtesy of CBS. Spiriditas on the call. Jake Brown here with Brian Costello. Kaz coming from Cleveland. And, we'll go guest free because we got a lot to react to after one of the more improbable wins, Kaz. I mean, we could say in Jets history. Would that be a stretch? I think that was one of the more improbable wins. Your story was written, 13-point game, 90 seconds to go. The Jets looked dead in the water, and maybe a backdoor cover was the only thing that they'd be covering. Instead, they recover an onside kick. Braden Mann goes from woat to goat after a 20-yard punt last week. At one point, he had more yards than Joe Flacco, thanks to a little Jake Brown special, a little fake punt trickery. And he gets the first. He gets the onside kick. Guy not on the team last week, Will Parks on the practice squad, recovers. And then Joe Flacco and Garrett Wilson make the magic happen. I'm almost speechless, Kaz. This doesn't happen. You've been covering the Jets for a dozen years. Things like this never happen. You tweeted that. Yep. Just give me your thoughts on this wild comeback.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not hyperbole to call it one of the most improbable, craziest wins in the franchise history. They've never, ever come back from 13 points down with under 2 minutes left before. So, and that hasn't happened in the NFL. I think it was since 2000 or 2001, one of them, so it's crazy. And, I look, Jake, the ESPN has that win probability thing. If you watch Gamecast,
it was 99.9%.
99.9% after Tyler Conklin had the incompletion before the Corey Davis touchdown. So that's pretty crazy. So yeah, it was nuts. I mean, the Browns opened the door for them. I still can't quite figure out what Nick Chubb was thinking there or why Kevin Stefanski didn't tell him to fall down. The game was over. Nick Chubb falls down at the 1 yard line. Game is over. All they have to do is take a knee. So, obviously they went up 13 points. No one was thinking the Jets were going to come back, but that's why you do stuff like that. That's why you practice things like that. So just maybe the only team that could do that to the Jets is the Browns, who could come up with a way to lose. But look, the Jets have had some brutal losses in Cleveland before, right? The Gastineau game in '86. A few years ago, 2018, when Baker Mayfield came off the bench. There's been some rough losses here. So the Jets get one.
We're keeping the receipts, cause we're keeping them. I mean, look, that quote, we ripped him a little bit. He backed.
I didn't rip him.
I did. I ripped him a little bit. A lot of Jets fans ripped him. It might have been the motivation they needed. And how about the timing of minutes after you play to win the game? Herman Edwards gets fired.
I don't think it's motivation, Jake. They didn't play all that well. I do think they have his back, and I think they played for 60 minutes. I think that says something. But it wasn't like they came out inspired in this game.
They were in the game, though. It wasn't like a laugher like last week.
No, the offense played better, but the defense was really bad. The 14-yard drive to start the game, they really couldn't stop the run. Jacoby Brissett, until the interception at the end of the game, was really good against them. So they still haven't played a complete game as a team. I thought week one, I thought the defense played pretty well and the offense stunk. This week, I thought the offense played pretty well and the defense wasn't as good. So, they still have yet to put together that complete game yet. So I do think they have his back. I do think they liked the receipt talk, but I'm not sure that it really inspired anything today.
Cause with all the ineptitude I've seen from this franchise as a fan, a win is a win is a win is a win. And while it wasn't the prettiest win, you take it. I was screaming off my couch when that happened. I mean, that was just the fact they recovered the onside kick. Braden Mann kind of fooled us all on that one. Take us through that, because he put the ball on the side, which we don't always see on onside kicks. And it looked like he was originally going to the right, but he went to the left. It seemed to fool the Browns special teams. Take us through the onside kick real quick.
Yeah, well, you have to do that now, Jake, because you can't, most teams don't do the old hopper anymore because you can't load up one side. Remember, the old days used to be able to load up one side and kick it that way, and you wanted it to bounce and guys to get it. So since the rule change, you see this is a lot. It's just you put it on the ground flat and you just kick the end so it spins, and it spins 10 yards. Yeah, I don't know if the fake right left did anything. Really, the play was Will Parks. I mean, Will Parks blew Amari Cooper up, and they said after the game, Justin Hardy said Parks came to him going on the field and said, "I'm going to take out Amari Cooper. Go get the ball," and that's exactly what happened. So, got to give Parks a lot of credit, and Hardy, who's a guy who his only job is special teams, right? Like he doesn't play defense, so he's an interesting guy. You don't have many guys like that on the roster usually. But he lived up to it today. He showed his value, so that was huge. I mean, that onside kicks are so rare these days. Pretty incredible. The Jets recovered that.
And Kaz, just the whole sequence of it. I mean, listen, Garrett Wilson, the social media talk is Garrett Wilson is him. I still don't really. Someone's got to inform me where this guy is him thing comes from. I don't know if our intern Josh knows it. It's some kind of I should know this, considering I'm a millennial or whatever, but everyone is him. Garrett Wilson is him. I thought when he had that lower back injury, Kaz, he was done for the day and maybe a few weeks. He was writhing in pain. He looked bad and looked like he was coming out. He comes back in, catches the second touchdown, 8 for 102 and 2 touchdowns. We talked about, last week, he didn't get a ton of touches, but he did show when he has the ball, he could be explosive. For him to come back from that injury and do what he did, Garrett Wilson is going to be something special for a while with this team.
Yeah, I thought the bigger one, Jake, to me was he drops the 3rd and 4 at midfield. And when he dropped that pass, I was like,
I thought it was over.
It's over. I think everyone thought the game's over here. Jets probably aren't going to get the ball back. Cleveland's going to drive down. And he said he was on the sideline thinking, I lost the game. I lost the game for the team, hoping for another chance. The defense had to stand there. Jets got the ball back at the 8, couldn't do anything with it, and then the Chubb touchdown. So, Wilson getting that last play, I think was huge for him after the 3rd down drop. And the first touchdown, Jake, was filthy. I mean, the move at the line of scrimmage was just it's been a while since I'd seen a Jets receiver that could put a move on a DB like that. And we saw this kid. You could see it in training camp. I thought he was swimming at times, learning the offense. And I thought that might have played into a little bit last week, the playing time. But clearly the Jets said they realized the error they made in week 1 and said, you got to get this guy on the field. Even if he makes mistakes, he's too good when he has the ball in his hands. And he's going to be a playmaker for them. Could be for a very long time, Jake.
That first step, he is explosive with that first step. It's unbelievable. Let's play Josh Garrett Wilson. After the game, he talked about that drop. And, he didn't want that drop to be the reason they lost.
I went crazy. I'm sure there'll be a TV that I went absolutely crazy on the sideline. I didn't want my drop to be the reason why we lost the game.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be the guy that – I mean, he had that right in his hands, and it looked like he took his first step before he even had it. So good for Garrett Wilson. And, Kaz, the locker room was pumped. You could hear it, right, from outside. You heard the celebration going on in there.
Yeah, we're in a room that's adjacent to the locker room waiting for Salah's press conference. So there's a door that connects the press conference room to the locker room. So I was kind of leaning up against the door and they were just exploding. And then I think the Jets have tweeted the videos of what I think it was when he announced they were off tomorrow. They got Victory Monday, that they really exploded. But yeah, it was a very exuberant locker room, Jake. And one I haven't seen a locker room quite that happy in a while. They're always happy after wins, but this one was a little extra special. Just because of the improbable nature of the win.
CJ Mosley, after the game, he described the locker room, and he used a word I haven't heard since Lil Jon said it about 10 or 15 years ago. Let's hear CJ Mosley after the game.
Well, in the old school time, it was crunk. Crunk. C-R-U-N-K. But, man, it was amazing, man. It was a great feeling. Like I said, man, losing can be contagious, but so can winning. So, hopefully after this win, everybody feeling this feeling, the way we won, being at a great AFC team place, and hopefully we can just keep it going because we got another big game next week.
Kaz, were you the one that said, what is that? Have you heard the word crunk before?
I've heard the word crunk before. Yes, Jake. I was not around CJ. I missed that.
Yeah, that was a nice little quote there.
I did see some people on my walk back to the hotel, Jake, who were crunk. They were crunk. They were
Jets fans were crunk.
I think they were Browns fans, actually. You may be drowning their sorrows after the game. There was a a few guys I saw that I desperately tried to avoid making eye contact with, because I think they probably would have wanted to start a fight. They were a little shaky.
Was there a good contingency of Jets fans? I saw some. I don't know how crowded it was.
I didn't see many. I mean, this is the Browns home opener, and I imagine they sold a lot of tickets before they knew Deshaun Watson's fate. So I didn't see a lot of Jets fans. I did see a Gastineau jersey in the parking lot, which I thought this is probably the worst place to wear a Gastineau jersey. But yeah, I didn't see a ton, Jake, but there was a few scattered about. And I know Garrett Wilson had 20 something people there for him. Because this was sort of a pseudo home game for him, he grew up in Columbus early in his life before he moved to Texas and then went to Ohio State, obviously.
Talk about showing out in your home state and where you went to school, where he developed such a big fan base in Ohio. He did just that. And listen, even during the game, all of us ripping Joe Flacco, you got to give him credit. He made throws when it mattered. Cause the Mike White chance came fast and furious in week 1. He had a couple of bad throws. Again, the offensive line wasn't incredible, but down the stretch, Joe Flacco made the plays when he did, and he ran for a first down for once. I mean, time was moving slow, it felt like, when he scrambled for that first down, but there's no argument here. Joe Flacco is very much your week 3 starter when the Jets play the Bengals, and there's no more Mike White chance until Zach Wilson comes back.
Well, how about I figured we're going to go now from the Mike White chance to Flacco has to stay the starter when Wilson's healthy. I don't care. If
I'm not there yet. I'm not there.
Next week, are we going to be there, Jake? Are we going to be? Maybe I have to stay with Flacco. I don't know. I don't know. I think we're going to get there.
I don't think so.
He did a good job. He did a good job today. And
I mean, 4 touchdown passes. I mean, no picks besides the fumble where I thought he's got to be more aware there. That 2 defensive ends coming at him.
I can't kill him on that. They freaking Clowney beat Max on that play and got to him. Can't kill him on that one. But I thought too, Jake, when they get the ball back after the onside kick, I don't know if a younger quarterback is as cool as he was there. He took what the defense gave him, which we always hear, but it was all these short throws. Like the Browns decided to play prevent defense, and they gave him all these short ones, and he took them, and they just marched right down the field. So I thought he was. You could see his experience at times in this game, and there was times where the Browns blitz where he made perfect reads. He's not flashy, Jake. He's not going to make those splash plays like Zach makes, but he's just steady. And the key to me is that what the offensive line did in this game. Myles Garrett had the one where they didn't block him, and Clowney got to him on the one you mentioned. Outside of that, he barely got touched. I think
it was night and day from last week.
I think he had 4. I think he got hit 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And this defense has, Myles Garrett might be the best pass rusher in football, and Clowney's pretty good. Clowney left the game with an ankle injury, but I thought the offensive line did a fantastic job, and that's the key with Flacco. I think I've talked about it on here before. Flacco with time is a different guy than Flacco under pressure. If he's under pressure, it doesn't work, and he was under pressure in week 1. But when you give him time to throw, he can still do it.
And listen, what was it? The Conklin fumble, was it Max Mitchell who fell on the ball, right? And he had a much better game and, didn't look like a rookie out there. And that's huge going up against another good defense in Cincinnati, who's going to come in with a fire cause next week. And we'll preview that game on Thursday. But this is an 0-2 Bengals team. So this game next week, and we'll talk about Thursday again, but that's going to be a big one against a team that's fighting for a win, period. This is a defending AFC champion, and they're winless right now. They just lost to Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. So the offensive line's got another test next week, but they passed the test this week.
Yeah, no, and the Bengals, will be fired up. They remember last year, and like you said, 0-2. I'm sure they're going to come in and give the Jets their best shot. But yeah, I thought, the best thing you could say about Max Martin is you're not really noticing him out there.
Max Mitchell.
Sorry, Mitchell. You're not noticing him. He had the one play with Clowney where he got beat, but he's been just like you haven't been like, oh my God, like it's not like the Wayne Hunter days where he's getting drubbed. So yeah, I don't know. I actually saw Dwayne Brown after the game today in the locker room. So he's still around the team. I don't know, where he's at in terms of coming back because he could be eligible in a few weeks. But I think the rookie's done a nice job.
And they didn't do a lot of run blocking, but like you said, they gave Flacco time. I mean, this was a different team on the ground today. They did nothing, Kaz. 45 yards on the ground. So this was the Joe Flacco game. 31-30 Jets beat the Browns. And where does this rank, Kaz, to you in greatest Jets wins since you've covered the team? Is this like right towards the top?
Yeah. Now I'm going like from 2011. If I start there, I covered the team for a while in 2008 when I filled in on the beat, and I covered the Thursday night win in New England, which that kind of always was to me in regular season win was just huge. And the Tennessee the week later was a big one too, undefeated Tennessee team. But if you're just going from 2011, Jake, I was trying to think. The overtime win against New England in 2015, that felt huge, right? And then it kind of dropped off because of what happened the next week. Because it felt like with that win, they're going to the playoffs. But this is right up there. It's right at the top of the list because of just how crazy it was. And like I tweeted after the game, the Jets just don't win games like this. Like I've seen them lose games like this, maybe not quite as dramatic. Tennessee comes to mind in bowls last year when they lost in Tennessee, they blew a big lead. But this was just remarkable to see the Jets pull this out. And I think, Jake, even when they get the ball, the Browns get the ball with 22 seconds left and Brissett runs for 20 yards on first down. You're like, oh boy, because that kicker made a 58-yarder last week, right? So you're like, is there a way they can get to the 40 here and give him a shot? And then Ashton Davis, of all people, Jake, that was his only snap in the game. And defensively, he played.
I was wondering why he was out there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a passing situation, so they probably loaded the field. I haven't looked at the film, but I'm going to guess that there was probably 7 DBs on the field at that point.
When they started
they're not running the ball.
I was like, they're going to get in field goal range. Like,
yeah. I think probably all the Jets fans out there were waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like even that much time. Like here we go. Like they're gonna do this. So it just really just incredible, Jake. And yeah, so I would have to say this is right at the top of the list of wins that I've covered.
One snap, Ashton Davis, one interception, and Brissett probably could have ran there, got out of bounds, got closer. Maybe they end up getting maybe a Broncos special 64-yard field goal attempt if they got close enough. They were getting towards that range. Let's play what Ashton Davis, Josh. Let's play what he had to say after the game because he spoke very highly about this group. Let's hear it.
What does this win say about this team?
No quitting us. We're gonna keep fighting regardless of the circumstances. And I love this team.
Ashton Davis. I mean, here's the thing which was good about this win. Everyone played a part. Braden Mann had the 4th down play. He had the onside kick. He wasn't terrible punting. Flacco had his day. Garrett Wilson had his day. Conklin had a few nice catches. He had to do without Uzama was inactive today. So he was out. Corey Davis had a couple of big plays. He showed some life. Michael Carter as a receiver, as a back blocker in the back was good. And even Greg Zerline, Kaz, makes up for his transgressions with a 57-yard kick. Mann was out there for the onside kick. Zerline wasn't out there for that. So how about Greg the Leg with the big field goal and making an extra point? Because listen, this might have never happened if the Browns make the extra point. This might go to overtime and it's same old Jets. They're 0-2. So even making an extra point was the big deal this week because he missed one last week.
Well, how about the Jets winning on kicking savvy, right? Like that. When's the last time that happened, right? The 57-yarder was incredible. I that was, crazy too. Tied the record, Jake, of Chandler Catanzaro, who did that in Cleveland in 2017, which is weird. And then, the extra point, and they missed the extra point, and the kicking game was great. Special teams was phenomenal. Fake punt was huge on the first drive. I thought Mann punted really well today, couple inside the 20. They did a nice job there. And you're right. And Will Parks, right? If you talk about guys at the bottom of the roster, Jake, he's down there. And, he didn't make the initial roster. And it was on the practice squad, and then they signed him this week. So it's pretty impressive that they a full team win today.
It's rare that we could celebrate kicker victories, but the Jets finally gave it to us. This is one of those wins that, if this team does even win 7 games, you're going to remember this game. And they needed it. Cause first time since, as we said, Sam Darnold's first start in Detroit, 2018, that this team has won in September. You've written about it. We've talked about it on the show. This team has to win a game at least in September. And this was the one you had. And this was the game you circled. You said, no, Watson, you picked the Jets to win 20-10. It didn't come to fruition. I said 2017, which was looking good at one point when it was 17-17. But, that didn't happen. But 31-30, you'll take it. This is, one of those games you need in September to kind of get this team going and give them some confidence. And, it is the Browns. So I know you'll say, and I'll say it too. I'll reiterate, it's the Browns. They're not good, especially with Watson out. This isn't a game that the Jets were heavily underdogs in, but it's still a much needed win in September that they badly.
Yeah, I won't say they're not good, Jake. I think the Browns are good, but they find ways to lose, right? And even they beat the Panthers, but they blew a big lead against the Panthers last week. They're the Browns. They have a lot of losses like that. It's funny because I was on the phone with an editor and I was going through the run through of what people were writing, and Mike Vaccaro was writing a column that this is a game the Jets don't usually win. The Jets never win in games like this. And one of the Browns beat writers was within earshot, and they said, yeah, but this is a game that the Browns always lose. So, they're not bad. They're not a bad team. They got a lot of talent. Those 2 running backs are incredible. Amari Cooper had a good game. And obviously we talked about Garrett. They got some talent on defense. So this isn't a bad team. And Jake, I think the big thing is what Joe Douglas said, right? Meaningful games in December. That's kind of the benchmark for this team that they want to hit. In order to have meaningful games in December, you've got to win some games like this, in September and October. You've got to steal some games where you're underdogs. And I think, they can if they somehow can get 4 wins, Jake, by the bye, they're in good shape because now the schedule lightens up after the bye and there's winnable games down the stretch. But so this was a big one to get this one. And now they have to just build off of it.
And listen, Coach Sala, the quote this week, we know it. He mentioned about that tackle and you talked about it. And by the way, that video was awesome of Flacco, hugging Sala and the locker room team rejoicing. Yeah. That was a cool video that the Jets posted, but Nick Chubb might have, in some ways he hurt the Jets with the 3 touchdowns and he didn't destroy them. He had 87 yards, but I mean, the trio of him, Hunt and Brissett ran for, 170 plus yards. So they dominated the run game, but he ran it in. And also, cause the couple plays leading up to that, they ran out of bounds a few times and that stopped the clock. It wasn't just the touchdown. They had a few that they tried to stay in bounds, maybe, but they ran out of bounds 2 or 3 times, stopped the clock, saved the Jets, who had the timeout issue early in the first half. We were thinking, why before the punt does Saleh not use a timeout there? Yeah. Luckily, they still score. That made no sense to do that.
What's funny, Jake, is with the last, I said this to somebody in the press box, the way the last 2 minutes went, nothing mattered in the first 58 minutes anymore. Yeah. Right? Saleh was even asked about that. They did end up scoring there, so it didn't matter, but I thought he should have called the timeout there. But yeah, nothing in the first 58 matters after the last 2 minutes. It was all about that. It was like an NBA game. Only the very end of the game matters. So crazy. And Jake, someone sent this to me, a picture. I'm not sure if you noticed on TV, but Stefanski had his kids around him ready to celebrate the win with a minute and a half left. His kids were on the sideline with him. And not good.
How do you even let that happen? How do the kids get on the field before the end of the game?
Well, he's the head coach. He could do it, I'm sure. Yeah. So, yeah, but don't think that wasn't noticed by some people with the Jets.
Do you you think so? You think the Jets noticed that and that lit a fire in them?
I don't think. No. I'm not saying it lit a fire. I don't think they noticed at the time. I think they noticed. I think they were aware of it after the game. I think people knew. So it was. It was because I think there was you could see it on TV. They showed it on TV, so I think people saw it.
All right, Zach Taylor, bring your kids to the sidelines next week. And that's going to be the theme for the rest of the season. Bring the families on the sideline before the game's over. Let's play Saleh, Josh, after the game. Talking about Nick Chubb and that, the best rushing touchdown he'll ever have the Jets give up. Let's hear what he has to say.
Yeah, I've never been so happy for missed tackle in my life. that was our only chance. And so credit to the offense, stepped up, took advantage of a busted coverage on Corey's play, and left us enough time to be able to get the onside win. So.
Yeah, it was like, what was the Super Bowl where when Ahmad Bradshaw scored against the Patriots and he tried to get down and he didn't, right?
Yeah, well, and that one, Jake, the Patriots let him score, right? So there's a play, it's usually called freeway, is what defenses call it. Rex did it against the Jaguars, I want to say, his first year, where, they basically, the C's part, they open up and they let the guy run up the middle for a touchdown. Usually you're doing it not to go down 2 touchdowns though, right? So that part was the Jets did not allow him to score the touchdown. They were trying to tackle him, like you said. DJ Reed missed the tackle, but sometimes that's your only chance is letting him score. And yeah, the Patriots were trying to let Ahmad Bradshaw score there, and Eli, you can see Eli in the background yelling to go down, and Bradshaw kind of fell into the end zone.
There were a couple plays, Kaz, that it was set up for the Jets to lose. Like the 57-yard field goal. Before that, there was what some people think was a phantom holding call on George Fant. No one really saw the hold. They called it. It's set up that the Jets weren't going to score there, and Greg the Leg makes the big field goal. Leading up to, the Chubb rushing touchdown, I think it was Marcel Harris had a huge 15-yard penalty on the punt that essentially got the ball almost in field goal range there. So there were a couple of huge penalties, a couple of huge plays where you're like, same old Jets, this game's over. We're keeping more receipts. And the tide just turned. It was just weird how it's going to be on, ESPN Classics or SNY Jets Classics in 2027.
Is there such a thing?
I don't know. ESPN
Jets
8 the
Classics?
Ocho. Yeah. I mean, we're going to start making it. This is going to be the lead.
I mean, look, I just thought of it, Jake. The game, you asked me about my time covering the Jets. The game that I can think of before my time covering the Jets that was more improbable than this, or as improbable, is the Monday Night Miracle. Right. That's a game you kind of see every once in a while as a Jets classic, but there aren't many.
That's once every 20 years. What year was the Monday Night Miracle? It was
2000. Was that 2000 or 2001? 2000. I don't remember.
20 plus years ago. So we get one a decade, one every 2 decades. Is that it? Man, there was just so many weird plays in this game. And, we got to give credit to Corey Davis too, Kaz, because his first year with the Jets, it was injuries, it was disappointment, got that big contract. He's not lighting up the stat sheet, but he's making a couple of big plays. And that play that set it up 30-24 to lead to the onside kick was big, because you don't expect Joe Flacco to throw the ball deep. You don't expect someone to get that wide open. And that 66-yard grab, Corey Davis, kind of a leader, a veteran receiver, mentoring guys like Garrett Wilson. And he spoke highly about Garrett Wilson, how happy he is for him and how hard he works after the game. Corey Davis is an important piece of this offense. And while he's not going to have 8 catches, he'll have a couple of big ones. And that one leading the onside kick was a big one.
Yeah, that catch, Jay, again, I'm gonna rip the Browns more than praise Corey Davis. Like, I don't know what they were doing in coverage. They seemed to just totally screw up there. But he had some other catches, Jake, in this game that I thought were big. There were times when he was getting open and making key receptions. And I think Corey Davis, he's a guy who will benefit from Garrett Wilson emerging, right? Because to me, he reminds me of Eric Decker. And when Eric Decker first got to the Jets, he struggled. He had an injury that first year. He didn't have a lot of big games. He had a huge game at the end of the year with Geno, but there wasn't a lot of them. Then the next year, Brandon Marshall comes, and all of a sudden Eric Decker just blossomed, right? Because all the attention wasn't on him. And to me, Corey Davis is a guy, if they're double teaming him and he's the guy, if he's him, Jake, if you will, or I'm probably not using that properly, it's not going to go well. But if he's the number 2 option, or 1 and 1A, and Garrett Wilson is drawing some coverage away from him, he'll get open and he'll make some plays. So I think he could benefit from Garrett Wilson kind of emerging here as a top target for the Jets.
I'm still fascinated over this him thing, Josh. If you could look up what the hell this all means, I don't. If you already know, do you know already? Because what's the reference, Josh?
I mean, it's just like a common term. Like, it's usually you'll see it like capitalized if you see it, somebody typed it out, but like, him Jones Jr., like the common pronoun for men. So like when a man does something, spectacular, you'll say, I'm him. So it's just
it's like the man. It's like he's the man. Is it
essentially
2022 version? Jake, this is a sad moment for you, man. Like this is you sound like the freaking old guy, right? Like that's usually my job on this show.
What do you mean I sound like the old? Oh,
no, what's this him? What's this him thing?
Well, I know he, him, third is a pronoun thing. I thought it like came from like a TV show or something. I am
you
getting
sound
old.
Kind of old.
Josh is the got to bring me younger because now I'm the one getting old.
You got your Dustin Keller jersey back there, and you're like, you're not understanding references.
And I got my throat coat tee and my Bah Humbug New York Post mug. Yeah, I mean, all right. So now we know him. He's him. So it's not from like a TV show. It's not a pop culture reference. It's just a life thing. All right. Well, Garrett Wilson is him. You could cut that one up, Josh. That'll be a soundboard right there. And Kaz, it's just, a win is so nice, just a win period. But like how that all happened, like I'm jumping up and down after the onside kick because I was getting a lot of tweets of this team sucks, same old Jets. Like I'm turning this off. And then I get tweets after, oh my God, I shut it off. I'm gonna have to go watch the highlights. Like the fact that the Jets win a game like this and win period in September, it's a reason to celebrate. It's the first time since 2009 that the Mets, Jets, Giants, and Yankees have won in the same day. It hasn't happened since the Obama presidency. 13 years. How about that? That's the ineptitude of New York sports, is that all 4 teams haven't won on the same day in 13 years. So tonight is a reason to celebrate. And Kaz, I want you to say my 4 favorite words because listeners of the show love it. And it starts with happy and ends with Jake. Do you know the middle 2 words? VM are the initials.
No, I have no
After
idea.
a victory. Happy blank Monday, Jake.
Happy Victory Monday, Jake. Those are their favorite words. I'll say this, Jake. You asked about the receipts thing, which I don't think inspired the Jets, but the one thing I'll say is they backed up this isn't the same old Jets thing. Now, after week 1, I ranted, go prove it, right? Stop talking about how you're a good team. Stop talking about how you're not the same old Jets. Go prove it. They did it. This was evidence. Now it's 1 game. So, they could relapse, but it's been a long time, long time since the Jets won a game like this. So that's pretty good evidence. They backed up their talk that, they're not the same old Jets. Because this was clearly not a same old Jets win.
I'm looking for my receipt. Let's see if I found it. I might have figured it out. I think I found it. I said win some games on it. They won a game.
Well, I'm hoping for Salah's sake, this will prevent the people from bringing the receipts to the Cincinnati game. Because I was positive that was going to happen if they lost today, that there was going to be receipts in the stands and throw it on the field and all that stuff. That's probably going to die, right, Jake? That there won't be a lot of receipts in the stands.
Well, every food you got from the vendor, you would have had a receipt. Whether you got the overpriced chicken fingers, the fries.
I'm pretty sure MetLife Stadium would be receiptless next week.
Yeah, no cash, no receipts.
Yeah,
no free medium sodas like the Giants did last year. Yeah. We don't need anything free yet. The Jets are 1-1. They're in the race. They're playing the Bengals. Nick Mangold's getting his number retired next week. It is a big Sunday next week for the Jets. I'm going to be doing a post-game podcast at some bar in Hoboken that's still not known. I don't know who. But
does that mean I get the week off?
Yeah, well, the post-game, yeah. So
big.
So we'll get 2 of those.
Big plans. Yeah, that's big, Jake. That's big news. You just threw me off. I don't even remember what I was going to say because that's I'm thrown off completely now.
Now your wife can make you a nice dinner on a Sunday night when you get home.
Oh boy! Luckily she doesn't listen to this for you. Were you at the Mets game on Saturday night, Jake?
I was there.
You go early. Are you an early arriver for the games, or do you get right there right at first?
Are you asking? So I have my Gary Cohen bobblehead.
I'm not asking, but how early were you there?
I got there around 5:40, 6 o'clock, maybe 5:45.
Did you see the cheerleaders on the field before the game? The young cheerleaders, the youth.
I know there was some dancing thing. Was your daughter one of them?
My daughter was on the field there, wow. Jake. Yes, on the field doing cheerleading. Yeah. So
were you there?
No, I was not there because I was flying to Cleveland.
Oh, right.
My wife was there. But yes, and they got some Gary Cohen bobblehead dolls too. So
yes.
apparently there was a lot left in the section where they were sitting, Jake. If you were
Clearly
smart,
a lot. I have 2.
you got 2. Wow.
Well,
So-
I went with people who weren't big fans, so they gave me another one. Maybe I'll give it away. But wow, cool. What is your daughter's name?
Alexa.
Alexa. Well, shout out to Alexa. Good. That's awesome. You know,
She's
getting in
very-
the field is a cool opportunity. So to do that is,
Yeah,
I know
and
when
Lin-
I was young, when I did it, it's like an incredible opportunity. So that's
She
awesome.
was very excited that Lindor was nearby warming up. And I was very proud that my 9-year-old daughter knows who Francisco Lindor is, because she said no, the other cheerleaders didn't know who he was, but she knew right away. So it's a parenting win.
Is she a Mets fan?
She is a Mets fan. Yes.
Let's go. Raising them
Yes.
right, Kyle. Are you I know you're a writer, but are you rooting for the Mets to do well?
I grew up as a Mets fan. Yeah. I was at Game 7 in 1986, Jake.
Oh, wow. Where were you sitting?
I was sitting in the last row at Shea Stadium.
Really?
Yeah.
I sat there once. I thought I was going to fall over. It's scary up there.
Yeah. The nets that catch the birds behind you. Yeah. I was actually at every Game 7 ever held at Shea Stadium.
Really?
I think because there's only 2 of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's only NLCS 06 and then 86
Yes.
Game
And
7.
NLCS 06 I was working, but 86 I was there as a fan.
Wow, we might have to have you as our guest on Amazing but True on Monday. our special beat writer guest. Yeah, well, that's awesome. Wow, on the field, Lindor and the Mets are good. The Mets swept the Pirates. The Jets win, and special times right now, man. I'm pumped for Sunday. I'm gonna have to go now. I have this post game show. I'm gonna have to find a way. The issue, Kaz, is really getting from the stadium to anywhere, because getting the Ubers are tough. Because I think the plan is to do it at 5:00, so I might just have to watch it at the bar in Hoboken. Yeah, I was thinking I want to go and up till halftime, then maybe I'll leave in the third quarter. But then I'm missing some of the games, so it's not looking good to go to that game next week.
You have no shot.
There's a new feel, that think about this. If they're 0-2, they lose that, 30-17 or 30-24 going into next week. I mean, it is the dead zone. It's still, we should get Mike White. It's maybe Joe Flacco for a half. You get the Nick Mangold ceremony, but now you're 1-1. You have a chance to go 2-1. You get Mangold, and then you get Zach Wilson in week 4.
Here we go.
Changes everything for the. I'm not saying to make the playoffs.
Oh, your roll, Jake.
But there's a reason to be pumped for Sunday's game.
Course,
and if they were to be 0-2, it would be like, here we go. We're going into October winless again. So this is a statement victory for the fans, for Salah, for the players, for the franchise, all across the board. Statement win, Kaz.
Statement win might be strong, but I feel like this, Jake, like what you're saying, the pressure's off for a few days, right? This was going to be a pressure cooker if they were 0-2, and the receipts thing was going to get blown up. That would have been a big deal. So I do think Jets coaches, Jets players, they can exhale a little bit tonight and just worry about the Bengals this week and not worry about any outside noise, anything like that. So I do think it takes a little pressure off of everyone this week. I think for it to be a statement win, they got to follow it up, right? And Michael Carter was funny. Michael Carter has like a pretty good perspective on things, Jake. Like he knows the history of stuff. Like he and I were talking about Doc Gooden, last week. Like he's pretty good with like sports history and stuff. So he knows what the Jets have been, and he was kind of saying, he's like, you media cracks me up. He's like, it was one loss and you guys made such a big deal about it. And he's like, but I kind of get it. He's like, I wasn't here, but I know the history and all the losing. And, so I said, like, do you understand? Like, do you appreciate like what this win was for that? And he said, yeah, I appreciate it. He said, but it wasn't the Super Bowl, So he's like, we can't get carried away. And he said, maybe in 6 weeks we do look back and we go, oh, we're 6 for 6 after that. So, yeah, I mean, we got to see now. We'll know the meaning of this game more in a few weeks, because we've seen wins, Jake, through the years where they went, like, last year they beat the Titans, right? That felt like a big win in overtime, but then they proceeded to lose the next few games. And, one of those was 54-13. In 2019, they beat the Cowboys at MetLife. That felt like, okay, maybe they're turning things around. And the week later was the ghost game. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of seen this stuff before. It's so they've got to follow this up, or it won't be a statement game.
Yeah, Josh, let's play that Michael Carter clip, because that was fascinating. He basically said, you make a big deal. And, we kind of did, but I think the fact, Kaz, that it was week 1 after all the buzz of the offseason is why we made it a big deal, and
But
just how sloppy they were to start the season.
every year, week 1, Jake, you overblow whatever happens, right?
Yeah.
And for the Jets, it's almost always been a loss. It's been a loss. But if you go back to 2018 and that Detroit game, we blew that way out of proportion.
Let's play what Michael Carter, Josh, said after the game.
You got to take one loss way too serious. So, but I can't blame y'all because I wasn't here before years ago, and it probably was a lot of losing. But that's not my fault. That's not our fault. So we're here to change that. And salute to all the guys that came before us, but and we respect them a lot. But we're trying to win.
The Jets are getting crunk in Cleveland. Michael Carter, great game. How was your 24 hours in Cleveland, Kaz? You got an early Monday morning flight out of there?
Too early, 10 a.m. Jace, not too bad. But
what'd you eat? What'd you do? Anything interesting?
Nah, nothing interesting. I got here at 9 o'clock last night, so I just ate in the hotel.
No meals today in Cleveland on Sunday.
Just at the hotel and the stadium.
All right, media food. Well, how was it? Was it better than Sloppy Joe's?
No,
really?
It wasn't the greatest press, but Jake, those of us who've been press box veterans, unlike yourself, the golden rule of press box food is you don't complain about press box food. It's free. Okay. It's free. You can't beat the price. So no, it was fine, but it was no, I haven't had any great meals. I heard that, the other Jets beat writers, I heard had a good barbecue meal last night, but I got in too late for that.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, all right, happy Victory Monday, Jake. I just want to reiterate that because I don't get to hear it often. It's 1 for you. You think 3 more? For me, I'm going to say 6 more of these. Who knows? Maybe we get 8 more and the Jets go 9-8 and get the final playoff spot.
Keep going.
Let's go.
Why stop there?
Screw it. 10-7. Let's
16-1.
All right. Well, 16-1. If they go 16-1, I will run naked through the streets of Times Square with the naked cowboy.
You're acting like somebody wants that, Jake.
No one wants it, but I'm going to do it if they go 16. If they go 13-4 or better, I'm running the streets naked, and you could cut this tape. So 13-4 or better, I will run, I don't know where. I'll say Times Square because that's like normal there. People will just keep walking in Times Square if they see someone running naked. Jets win 31-30 over the Browns. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals come to MetLife Stadium, and we'll preview that game on Thursday.